Okay, guys, let's get started. Rajat, whenever you're ready, please share your screen and hopefully everybody else will join and then we can get started. Rajat, if you're talking on mute.
Yeah, hi guys, am I audible properly?
Yes, you are.
Let's start this session. So today I will be telling how things works in proper project. Like if we get any situation, like any condition, when we have to create that particular situation using our code and any particular thing in Salesforce. And before directly writing things in production, in production we didn't able to we are not able to write the code directly in production, or so there are different kinds of sandbox in which we first write our code, do testing, and then push it in the production org. So what process we are following in this, I will tell you. The first thing is we have a different developers like developer pro, full sandbox, and p copy. There are basic differences all these four kind of sandboxes of the storage, and full sandbox represent a total replica of like production org, with all its data it will replicate it in full sandbox. And partial sandbox represent a little bit of data. It is as its name shows, partial copy. So it means that we are only having partial data in the partial copy developer org. So what we follow the process is, first we write code and other things in the sandboxes, then we push it to the yeah, as the screen says, developer sandbox, developer pro sandbox, partial copy, full sandbox. So let me share my screen and explain you how we are going to how we work in this particular thing. Please do confirm when my screen is visible. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So this is the production org. How can we identify this? Using the URL. In this URL, it is not written anywhere that it is a sandbox. In product sandbox, it is written in proper that it is a sandbox. In URL, it is mentioned. So let me also open the sandbox also of this. I'm I am opening a pcopy org of this particular project.
So this is a partial copy sandbox, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one is in this particular proper blue icon of the Salesforce. It represents that it is a production org. And see, here is a little bit difference. Here you see it is a grace kind of color. So that represent it is a sandbox org.
And this can be achieved using what do you call it? Is it Google extension called Standard Favicon or something like that?
No, it is by default provided by
Okay,
the
but you
Salesforce.
can also do it through there's an extension where you can give different colors to different orgs.
Yeah, by the extension we can manage this, but this is the standard
Okay,
default thing provided by the Salesforce,
Salesforce. Okay.
through which we can identify. Another thing by which we can identify in which org we have logged in. As you see the difference in the like URL, it is showing p copy sandbox here. But in production org, you can see there is no mention that it is a p copy and all this kind of this things. So let me explain you how things works in this. Like if we get any particular situation, there is a proper process. The client inform the business analyst that we want these things to be implemented in our org. and the business analyst will proceed further with the developer, and then developer again assign the story and with the BA, and then moves to the QA part. So it totally depends on the organization and organization how they are working. Sometimes it works like this way: directly the client is engaged with the developer. If there are minimal changes, they directly inform to the developer, and developer made these changes with the prior information, with by informing their managers, and by doing the deployment, all these things they move to the code to the production org. So suppose in recent recently I have got a situation that they want to change their like hierarchy system in their org. So what client has provided me that they want to change the things. Please modify trigger contract condition RM. This was made up for earlier user designation. Now RM should be decided on the BDM, SL, TL and RM. So they also provided another image with me how
Can you
things work.
show that story, how the requirement that you're talking about, Rajat?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't have the story access because in this project, the client directly provide me the conditions and what
Okay.
changes they want. They directly inform me because I'm working on this project for like past around 1 year. So they directly provide the changes and I do the changes because it is already implemented project.
Okay.
Um, in the project which is being started from scratch, in that particular most of the time we need stories.
Okay.
In that particular way, the client tells the story, like tells their business scenarios to the business analyst, and then business analyst will create a Jira story. In that particular, it will write what fields to be need to be created, and in what way it is created. That will be discussed with the technical architect of that project, who is the technical architect of the project will make the solution of that particular thing. How many fields do we need, how we are going to store this, and based on that discussion, business analyst will provide the information. Business analyst will create a story about these things, and it will be assigned to the developer who will be working on that particular story. After the story is provided assigned to that particular developer, the developer start working. Suppose in case the developer is unable to understand that story, the developer will again assign the story to the that particular BA who have created that story, that it needs to be further discussion. So the story will be discussed, and all these things which is required to work on that particular story will be discussed, and the developer will start working on that. In case of any blockage, it will be again the story move to that particular BA part, and if it goes smooth, everything goes well, then the story will be assigned to story status is marked as done, and it will be moved to the again BA, which is business analyst. Just a second.
So everybody
Can you guys
understand basically what he's trying to say is once a story comes,
can you guys please wait for 1 minute?
sure, sure.
Just
I'm
a
just
second.
repeating what you're saying, Rajat, in the meanwhile. So basically, what he's trying to say is when a user story comes, a business analyst is going to work with the stakeholders. They're going to create a user story, whatever the requirements they have, the BA is going to list in the user story. And usually, the tool majority of the companies use is called Jira. And there, the story will be finally given to a developer. Now, the developer starts working, implementing that story from a sandbox. And the way you can differentiate between the different sandboxes is through the URL. That is the one way. In the URL, you will never find the word sandbox if it's a production org. And if it is a sandbox, then you will tell it could be P copy is his URL, but not everybody is going to use the same. There can be test org, they can say QA in the URL, they can say partial in the URL, and the word sandbox will be there majority of the times, and that tells you it is a sandbox org. And there are different types of sandboxes. We have is a developer pro sandbox, partial copy, full copy sandbox. And in the case of developer pro sandbox, majority of the developers do their work in there. and there is a limitation on the storage, how much of data can you store. And usually in the Developer Pro you only have metadata means you'll only have fields, objects, Apex classes. You won't have any production data inside of the Developer Pro sandbox. Okay, and you can refresh the sandbox every day, every 24 hours. When I say refresh means whatever is the metadata present uh, in the production, you can refresh it in your lower orgs. You can get the same metadata inside of your Developer Pro sandbox. So what happens is after every release, it's a good practice to refresh your sandboxes so that everything is in sync. Sometimes what happens is if you delay in refreshing your sandboxes, your production might be out of sync and with your sandboxes. So it's always a good practice to refresh your sandboxes. Then the next type of sandbox that we have is a partial copy sandbox, which basically contains you can have up to 5 GB of data storage, means you can have that much of data from production. You will have all the metadata, all the Apex classes, everything is there, and you can refresh it after 5 days. So if you have refreshed it today, you can only refresh it later after 5 days if you want to refresh your partial copy. Then you have as a full sandbox, which is exact replica of your production data. You don't want exact copy of your production. So what they do is they anonymize the data, means they will change the customer information, the important data address information. That is a kind of a company policy that you cannot exploit. You cannot put as is production data into your lower sandboxes because it's a security and a confidentiality concern. So what they'll do is they will anonymize the data before putting into the a full copy sandbox. Okay, and the refresh interval is about 29 days. Means if you have refreshed it today, you have to wait at least a month, approximately a month, to refresh the sandbox again. Any questions so far, guys?
Guys, if you have any questions, do let me know. I will try to resolve those.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So you mentioned
Yeah.
refresh sandbox from production metadata into sandbox.
Hmm.
But why would you want to do that? Because if your sandbox is, let's say, for development purpose, and you are ahead of
If you're
development.
ahead, then that's a different story. But let's say in the QA, you wanted to keep same as the production, and you want to get and you can define what do you want. Do you want the data, everything to be synced? So you can decide on those things, but the companies do it in order to have the consistency between the orgs. I completely understand you might be working, they won't do developer sandbox might be the one which is ahead, and then the remaining ones they wanted to be in sync after the release, so they do refresh the sandboxes.
Okay, so refresh in terms of data, right? Not
They can do
metadata.
they can do both metadata as well as the data.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Rajat.
Okay. Uh, let me again share my screen. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So let me explain you few things. Suppose just a second, I'm again resharing my screen in different way.
Rajat, it will be better if you do the entire screen, then everybody will be able to see.
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing that. Uh, are you guys able to see this screenshot
Yes.
and this one? So in this particular thing, there is a trigger written in that particular org, which defines the RM and TL field on that particular object, and what they want. They now have changed their hierarchy system. They have introduced SL also. So they want to change their whole hierarchy system when any particular field is updated, like honor is changed. So based on that, they want to change the hierarchy system. But as they introduced a new SL, so it will be not correctly replicated in their production org. So they decided to also update their existing code, and they have provided these things. And also for that, they have provided the like what they want right now, like honors designation, RM, BDM, RM, TLRM. Based on this, they want these fields to be updated. So this is was one scenario they want to update in that particular trigger. Suppose now this directly cannot be updated in the
Production.
trigger production org, because if directly updated in production org, it might get, sorry, there are chances trigger can be written directly, cannot be updated in production org. So one thing is that, and another thing is that for suppose taking the example of LWC, Lightning Web Component, so they can be directly updated in the production org. But few things are can be noticed in that if we directly make the changes in the production org, it might be not correct. So that's the reason we directly not push the data, could write code in production org. In case of Apex classes or Apex triggers, we need to do the things in the production, sorry, sandbox org, and it is moved to then QA part, and then QA will test that particular thing, and after that it will be deployed to the production org. The way I am doing the deployment using the change set, I will also explain you. So just a second.
So don't worry about the requirement, guys, because it's specific to his company, but we will basically assume there is a change he made in a trigger and he implemented that user story. So he will start
Yeah,
from the developer console, update the trigger. Go ahead, Rajat.
yeah.
You are in the partial copy sandbox. Don't you have to start from the developer pro?
No, in partial copy, what we did in partial copy, we write the code, and
Okay.
based on that, there is also another org U8. The process we
UAT
are
org.
following,
That's what you're
yeah,
talking about. Okay.
yeah, the process we are following, that the we write do the implementation kind of things, all these in production, or sorry, not in production, in partial copy. Then it is moved to the with kind of testing by the developer itself, it is moved to the UAT, and in UAT it is proper tested by the firstly it is tested by our QA team, then it is handed over to the client, as its name suggested, UAT, which is user acceptance uh, testing. So it is provided to the user, the one who is using that, it they will test that their system will work proper by their with their requirement, and once they approve that, it will be totally moved to that particular production. After they provide the approval of that, it is totally fulfilling their requirement what they exactly want, and based on that we will deploy to the production org. So again I am sharing my developer console. Suppose in this trigger, not in this, yeah, suppose this is the Apex class, I have made few changes, and this is the test class, sorry, yeah,
You're not using
this
the
is
word
the,
test. Okay, you are using the word.
yeah, so this is my Apex class. In this I have do some kind of implementation, and all these scenarios I have written in this. So after, once I write the code here, I will go to the change set process. In case there are small changes, we do follow the change set process, but there are different kind of deployment process. So we can also go with that, because change set is a very very smooth things for the small changes. We don't need to do very large heavy practices for these. There are two kind of chain set. What is it represent? Outbound chain set represent we are sending to the different org. Suppose from P, as this is the P copy org, we are sending in changes to the different org from the P copy org. See, so we create an outbound chain set from here, and it will be by uploading here, it will be replicated to the different one. So here, suppose this one. See, we can also delete this, upload. Once I upload this, it will ask in which org we want to. Suppose we have different orgs, UAT also and production also. The process is like that, UAT, then after production. So first we move to the UAT org, and in that UAT, again it is tested properly by the QA team. Then after verifying with the QA team and in for UAT, also verifying with the like user. So once they confirm, we will again do the same process by change set. Again, we create a outbound change set. Now we are selecting the org to the production org. So once it is done, we go select this upload, and it will be uploaded to that particular org. And in the now from uploading here, we go to this particular inbound change set.
Can you do one like, simple like a system.debug statement? Can you add that to the change set and then push it? Can you do that, Rajat?
As it is a project, so I can't do this.
Okay, you can't like we don't have to move it to production. We can only deal through the QA org. And
Uh,
even a
uh,
debug statement won't be possible.
Not now. In next session, I will try to do this.
Okay.
I will try a separate org, and
Okay.
in that I will solve this process. See, here it is. It will be shown once the change set is. Sorry, not outbound. Sorry,
The next one, outbound chain sets right there. Sorry,
it
this
is
will
in.
be inbound. This will be inbound.
Yeah. See, all these things will be seen here, and we can accept. It is at that point it is showing upload, but it is showing validate or deploy. Once we will do the uploading from that particular thing, and we can go and deploy this particular thing. Once it is deployed, the changes are replicated in this org, and it will be start working properly fine. In case of any issue, it will provide that your deployment has been failed, and we'll see validate failed, validate failed, validate cancelled. So also it will give kind of these errors, suppose in case code coverage error, kind of these things. So it will properly define these things, and once it will be deployed successfully, the changes you have made will start working in that particular thing,
Okay,
particular org.
guys. So there are two different types of chain sets. One is the inbound chain sets, and the other one is outbound.
Yeah.
Outbound is basically what is going outside of your org. So let me share my screen and explain to you. So here, if you go, okay. So the outbound chain set is created in the source organization. So basically, if you are pushing your changes from, let's say in his example, from the partial copy sandbox, he's moving it to the UAT org. So what he'll do is in the partial copy in which he has made the changes, like a trigger change or created a custom object, added few fields. So he will go ahead and create the outbound chain sets. And then once he creates the outbound chain set, he will use it an upload button, and then he will define to which org he wants to upload it. And if he can choose all the orgs that are connected to your source org, it will show your UAT org, it will show your production org, and then he can say that okay, I want to push these changes to the UAT org. Once he goes ahead and uploads it to the UAT, then you will log into the UAT org and then come over to the inbound chain sets, and basically those will show that okay, these are the one that has been uploaded. Now, once you have uploaded, you have to first validate it by clicking the validate button, and it will see if your test classes are running smoothly, if you have all the code coverage, and if it doesn't, it is going to error out. If it is validated successfully, you can go ahead and hit the deploy button. Those changes will get deployed to your org. Okay, so from and then you can go ahead after they have approved it, they liked whatever changes you guys have made, then they will go ahead and ask you to push it to production org. Am I right, Rajat?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Anything else you want to talk about?
I have a quick
No.
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, so my question is, so it's I just want to understand. So in Salesforce, it appears that everything is done within the org and different instances. So meaning like, the typical development practice in let's say other stack where Git is involved and then maybe a GitHub or some other repository is involved for deployment across different environments. That is not a norm in Salesforce, is that correct?
You can do the same GitHub repository and check in, check out. We do have the CI/CD pipeline here also, but it depends on org to organizations. Every organization is different. Sometimes so Rajat, how do you guys do CI/CD? Like, how do you deploy if there are multiple developers? How you guys go ahead and handle those things?
Uh, for a small changes like this scenario, just I have talked about, this is a small changes. For this process, we don't follow the CI/CD pipeline kind of thing because it is a small. We just do the implementation because it doesn't take that much time. And again, after checking all these things, validating it is working proper, and so we do with the change set kind of things.
Okay,
Most
but
of
if
the
you
thing
have a
we are
bigger
doing with
one,
the change, yeah. In
then
case of bigger one, so we or do follow a DevOps way by implementing this, but most of the time we are following this way, change set.
okay, okay.
So
Yeah.
how do you like control versioning? Like, or there is no such concept of versioning. It is basically the latest and greatest is you know, is basically the way to go. Is that what is a simple way to describe it?
Yeah,
Like,
Mm,
let's
so
what?
say,
so
what? Sorry, go ahead.
so child, so can I take a step? So I think so try to understand like the idea, right? So this is Salesforce default option to do the bare minimum job.
Yeah,
This is used in a small or medium scale enterprise, but typically in any corporate America enterprise scale applications, you will still need at least GitHub
yeah,
and some sort of deployment tools like Copado or Kubernetes or whatever, right?
yeah.
Or Maven if you're like old school or Jenkins.
There's a gear set as well, so that's another one.
Right. So this is basically like in a single developer, manual deployment sort of a thing, just like bare bones.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand is because also I think Salesforce is a little bit different because here the environment is really not not with you. It is entirely with Salesforce. So that's why I was just trying to understand whether you have any control over deployment. So you're suggesting that you can still have your normal GitHub, uh, or any other CI/CD process. Then yeah, I'm just kind of curious, like if you have that, then your environment is not really with you. So what kind of restrictions are there with Salesforce, having their environment? Can you like, deploy as you wish, or do you have to follow some, policies that Salesforce has? It would be good to see like a live deployment process, to be honest.
Right. I
Uh,
think you have touched upon a few topics there. So there's
yeah,
like two different things. Version control is different from deployments. Git and GitHub is like a version controlling system, right?
right. Yeah.
Your deployment can use based on whether you use, DevOps or what kind of things you use it. The deployment cycle, that's what determines, right? So whether you're on-prem or cloud doesn't matter. I think the fundamentals of Salesforce is like, you're using a multi-tenant architecture on the cloud, but that does not restrict you to not control your orgs or sandboxes, right? It doesn't matter. It's still the same. Whether it's an on cloud or an on-prem, you still can connect to your GitHub and do complete version control. You can still can employ all the deployment tools, whether it's manual change sets, gear sets, Maven, Jenkins, Kubernetes, Copado, whatnot. Everything can be still be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no way, even if it's a multi-tenant architecture, but you have every control on it. So you can implement whatever you want. This was just like a very basic chain sets deployment from one org to the other. But you can still do versioning, you can do check in, check out, pushing it to the org, all that can be done within Salesforce as well. And a lot of companies actually do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the insight.
Rajat, anything else you want to cover?
No, for a change set kind of process and deployment things, this is how we work and deploying a small changes like this way, but it is totally depends organization and organization. Suppose any enterprise level or a project, in that we do follow a process of DevOps. So, but for a small changes, we do this kind of deployment. Suppose this is a very basic kind of thing changes. So for that, we directly follow the outbound and inward change set process. So that's
Okay.
all from my side. And if you guys have any further queries, do let me know.
Do you have the other gear set up by any chance, Rajat?
Mm,
Not the gear
uh,
set, like the CI/CD setup.
right now, I am not able, I can't show you, but
Okay.
in the next session, I will proper show you this way.
Okay, that's fine. We can wait for the next session, not a problem. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Any questions for Rajat before he drops off?
Rajat, by any chance, did you show how to connect your outbound and inbound queues to the proper environments? I don't recall seeing that, or maybe I missed it.
Can you repeat again?
So did you like, I know you talked about inbound and outbound queues, but did you show how to configure these or point these to like the right
Yeah, like
environment?
Rajat, can you open up if you share your screen, if you just create a chain set, add a field, and then we are not doing an upload, we will just leave it there. And then where do you select the org?
Right. I think that's what like kind of leaves us with like a disconnect. I think where and now able to see why Chowdhury was not able to follow.
Okay, just a second. Let me open that particular org.
Yeah, and share your screen, Rajat, again.
Yeah, I am just sharing my screen. Allow me a minute. Please do confirm when my screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so I'm I'm uploading this. I have created any particular chain set just by creating or clicking on new button. There is an option to upload this. Once I click upload, all those org which is connected, it is by default provided by the Salesforce. Suppose I am going to upload it on a production and there is any another sandbox like dev4. So once I click this and upload, it will be uploaded there. Just
So,
it
Ra
is this
Ra
way simple.
Rajat, all your environments are here by default, or you get to create those?
Yeah. No. It is by default. We don't need to set up these things.
No, I don't think so, because there is a way to uh, add those target organizations. They are not always visible by default.
No, once most of the time it is provided. Suppose for the production, it will be provided.
You will have to, in that sandbox, in that particular sandbox, there is a way to allow it accept the inbound and also outbound.
Yeah,
Uh,
that will be configuration. But I'm saying that for production, like it is a production, so we don't need to like manually adding production kind of things here. We just need to uploading change set in production. It is not a big deal here from.
yeah, that's true. But if you have two more sandboxes, there, what I'm
Yeah,
saying is
yeah.
visible
Okay,
unless you,
understood.
yeah.
Yeah, that's for away, but for production, we can directly create a change set, and it will be by clicking on upload, it will be provided here.
So was it Shalini? Shalini, so you're saying, I believe you have to configure the lower sandboxes to see a complete list of it, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you configure, yeah, once you build the sandbox, and suppose sandbox A to sandbox B, you want to know something. There is I don't remember top of my memory exactly what it was, but there is a way both the sandboxes should be allowed to, like, accept
Is it?
the inbound and outbound. Yeah. Uh, so it's a very simple setting. Yeah, once it is done,
Yeah,
then it is visible.
yeah. Yeah, for that particular thing, because everything is not accepted in that particular org, we need to enable few things. But for setting up that particular for the production, it is not done. It will be provided by the
Mhm.
Salesforce itself. And if we want to block it, then for particular any org, that it can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a stupid question, Rajat and Shalini, if you know. So let's say, will you not create, so you will always create it from your developer sandbox or basically where you're working on. Let's say we pushed it to QA or UAT. Will you create a outbound change sets in UAT or you will start from the developer?
From the dev org.
No.
It'll
From
always
the
be.
debug, but in the UAT sandbox, there is a setting that says, yeah, you accept the enable that, accept the inbound deployment, so that you can deploy from the
UAT
developer
to
org.
production. Okay, so
Yeah,
from developer, it'll always be from developer org.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think so. If I remember, Rajat and Shalini, can you confirm? You gotta like from the developer sandbox, you create an outbound chain set,
Yeah,
and like the destination sandbox, you
it'll be an
create
inbound
an
chain set.
inbound, and then you enable.
Yeah.
That's a. So I think that was my question. So if you can close that loop, the source, what do you do? How do you define the target? And then at the target, how do you like allow the inbound, right? That's what I think will
yeah.
paint
In
the picture.
all
Yeah.
those orgs, it is, you can, it depending on the requirement, you can do it like, enable outbound and inbound, but it is, how you set up for this software development deployment cycle. Um, but it's available both way. It's that
Yeah.
option that you choose.
So basically, the org in which we are doing changes, suppose I am doing changes in P copy and I want to move it to the production. So outbound change set is will be created in that particular P copy org, and in production or where it we want to deploy that particular, like the changes will be replicated in that particular org. We will uh, check for the inbound. So in inbound, it will be visible, and from there we can validate or deploy things. Because we are sending from the org in which we are working, and we have tested all these things, which is right now in this example, which is p copy, and it will be moved to that particular like production org. So outbound change set will be created in p copy org, and in production we are going to check for the inbound change set.
Amar, does that make sense?
No, it makes sense, but I think what would really help everybody is like if we can demonstrate maybe in the next session, maybe create like another, because from a real-time perspective, it's not like we're
Yeah,
going to deploy in production. Most likely, you're going to take it from sandbox, dev sandbox to either QA or your integration, or from QA to integration. I think that kind of thing will help.
okay. I will try to do this in the next session.
Yeah, Salesforce doesn't have a defined way, right? You can spin off, depending on the package, how many developer arcs, how many partial copy, and how many full copy you have. Usually, 4 to 5 developer arc or developer pro, and then one partial copy or one full copy is
Full copy, yeah.
really
That's
right now.
usually the organization have like one
Yeah,
partial copy and then one full copy. Sometimes they might, if there's a big organization, they might do a two partial copy, but always have one full sandbox.
yeah. It doesn't come out of the box. You'll have to, buy again
Yeah,
if it
buy
is
again.
partial or full. Yeah. So, and it's when you spin off the sandboxes, you define like how you want the cycle to be. Like, you want to set a UAT separate, you want to set up unit testing one separate or QA one separate. It all depends on the organization. Key. Um,
Mm,
there is no fixed way, like, hey, this is the, this is the QA, this is the UAT one. That
Yeah,
is not,
it totally up to the company and company wise,
yeah.
like the organization which is working on that particular thing. It totally up to them how they are going to move further with this deployment kind of things. Whether it is a UAT, some may be QA, some might be using it as another name. So it ups to them.
Yeah, I think Rajat, the two things I think would help is going to the production and showing all the sandboxes. And the second one is showing the users in sandboxes, like how their username is appended with
Yeah, Shalini,
regular.
that's a good point. Can you, Rajat, if you don't mind, can you share your screen? See, and I wanted to show the usernames will have like a .p copies, .sandbox, something like that in the test org sandboxes, whereas in production it won't be anything like that. Can you show the difference, and also can you show all the sandboxes which the production has tied to?
Yeah, I will. Right now, I will show you all the different kind of sandboxes. In the
Okay.
next session, I will create it at that time,
Okay.
because once we make that created, it will take around 1 to 2 hours to get the sandbox ready.
Okay, but can you show us like how do you do that in just in case sometimes people have to do it spinning
Yeah,
of,
sure.
yeah, if yeah, go ahead. And then also go to the users and you will see the different usernames for a P copy versus a production org.
Okay, so are you guys able to see my screen?
Yeah.
See, right now they have 25 licenses in use, 25 licenses in which four developer org they are using here, and they have zero licenses of developer pro, one partial copy, and zero full license, full sandbox. So whenever we click new sandbox, we are able to create any for particular developer org. So this is the way we are able to create the sandbox.
So from the setup you went over to sandboxes,
Yeah, in setup, just click
and
on
this is he's
sandbox.
logged in into production org, guys, just to
Yeah,
yeah.
this is the production org. Let me again move to this so you are able to see. Once I click new sandbox, they will be provided which developer org I want, which sandbox which we want to create. So right now they have only developer org license available, so we can create that particular.
And then can you go to the users here in the system?
So your partial copy, they're using it as UAT, is it?
Yeah, it is partial copy. We are using it for directly in this particular org. We directly partial copy to production. We are not using Hewitt in this particular org.
What is a partial copy used for?
Um,
Par Basically, partial copy represents the half of the data of the production. Suppose in production we have around,
No, no, I
suppose for
get it.
example,
No, I get it. Yeah.
yeah,
So a partial copy will have like a subset of production data.
yeah,
But in this particular example, I'm just trying to understand their architecture. You have a developer sandboxes and then one partial copy and then your production. So what is the
yeah.
partial copy used for? Like which environment is it used for? Integration, QA, UAT, what is it used for?
For in this particular, I'm using it for the development purposes.
so you're
Like
not
all
using
these
Developer Pro, you're not using Developer Sandbox,
no,
you're directly
no,
developing in product partial copy.
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is that like I thought like you so you don't use the developer? You have 25 licenses of can you go back? Like, for a quick second.
Usually, I think you guys, Rajat, your company is using it, abusing it, I would say. It's not doing it in the right way. You guys start from Developer Pro and then go to partial copy. So where are you testing it then?
That's what I'm
Uh,
trying to figure out.
it it totally up to them because how they are using. So we because it is already prior implemented by
Oh, this is a
different because
maintenance project.
yeah, because project goes to companies varies how it is started prior. So that's the reason we are working on that.
So development is happening in partial copy, testing is also happening in partial copy.
Yeah,
And integration testing is
because
also happening. This is pretty, I should, do you have a better example?
Because I think with the existing licenses, what ideally should have happened is your development should have, your initial development should be taking place in your developer orgs, then should be moved to your partial copy where your QA or integration
Yeah,
ideally, and then from partial copy to your production.
correct. Hmm. Okay.
One of the reason might be Rajat, can you put out sandboxes in production if you are have it open? There is a concept, non-preview and preview. It's depending on Salesforce release cycle. There is a sandbox up. All sandboxes, regardless, they get upgraded during the sandbox release. That is like 4 to 6 weeks window before the production release, and you have an option to choose. Suppose I'm working on a project. I don't want my in developer org, and I don't want my org to be sandbox to be upgraded. Then there is a time window where you can select, as an uh, not to receive the upgrade. So that sandbox won't get upgraded, but you will have and you will not have any changes in that sandbox from the Salesforce. Otherwise, it will auto upgrade it with the new release. And during that window, like 4 to 6 week window, where all sandboxes are upgraded, but not the production. I don't remember exactly, but you cannot um, you know uh, fly from production to the already upgraded sandbox. Otherwise, it will revert the upgrade that Salesforce deployed. There is some constraint with that. But Rajat, you might know better this. I saw one of them was the non-preview, and 3 of them were preview in the sandboxes. That might be the reason why they chosen partial copy to do the development.
Uh, so Rajat, for just I know you have constrained on what all you can show us through your company. I completely understand that. Just if you just go to partial copy, not can just walk us through for a minute. what Shalini is trying to say related to the releases? Just last one. I promise you I won't ask you for more.
Yeah, it wasn't the sandboxes, that status, that there's a column that says preview or not preview. Release type.
Where do you see release type? Oh, preview. Okay.
No, preview is developer.
Oh, so even for developer, there is a preview and non-preview both.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if it is non-preview, that means that sandbox has been chosen not to release, not to get the upgrade from Salesforce.
I see. Okay. And you can set it up while spinning the org.
Yeah.
Okay.
And why
Even
would
after,
and why would you choose that? What is the difference? I didn't get that.
If you are working on a project and Salesforce release, like, hey, next winter release, right? What are the changes that are going to happen? You will see a release update in the sandbox also. You go through those, whoever managing those, release cycles, they know what are the ones that needs to be taken care of. If there are major ones that are affecting your project that you are working on, you choose not to get the upgrade from the Salesforce. You work on the project and deploy it to the preview uh, preview sandbox and see test there once you are done. But if it is going to impact your project while you are in the middle of the project, then you certainly know you don't want to receive the upgrade.
Got it. Okay. So that's just like for the release compatibility, you temporarily want to freeze it until the development completes.
Yes, that,
And
yeah.
okay,
And
got
then
it.
you can
Yeah,
deploy
yeah.
it to the preview sandbox that already received the upgrade and then test your stuff there.
Right, right. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Anything else you want to ask Rajat before he drops off? And then one more thing, Rajat, just the username part, if you don't mind, if you go to users in production and how they are set up versus the usernames in the test org, just to know that, okay, how will they log in? I think you guys log in with test.salesforce.com and then enter that username password. And then if it's production, you do login.salesforce.com.
It is the same way we are logging in with that particular, like in our developer org.
So you use the like the domain URL, or do you use test.salesforce.com? Because it's both way you can do it, right? If you want.
It totally up to the organization, because some organization want that particular URL to be used when they are logging,
Okay.
and in that the URL will be created, and based on that particular URL they will be logged in. But most of the organization, like, they are not that much big companies, so they directly follow the simple process by directly using login.salesforce.com, and their username and password, they are able to log in.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sure he doesn't want to show those things, but yeah, usernames. So the usernames in production will have just the plain usernames, like deepika.khanna@usa.com would be my login. Whereas in the lower org, it'll be deepika.khanna@ uat.usa.com. So it'll be something like that, where it'll tell you that this is for QA, this is for your test org, and production will be pretty simple. Then in order for you to log into production, you will go to login.salesforce.com if you have not enabled my domain. Otherwise, you'll go to otherwise you'll go to test.salesforce.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you, Rajat. Appreciate you
So
joining. Whatever you could show, you did your best. We do have certain limitations because that's his company's laptop, and there are certain challenges and the confidentiality issues. So hopefully everybody got a little bit gist of how things are done in the real world, starting from making a change, creating a change set, deploying it, and then uploading it, and then deploying it to the production eventually. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And
okay, guys, thank you, everyone. Bye.
bye-bye. Thank you. So let me just go ahead and walk you through what I had earlier. So we discussed this one, the release cycle. Sandboxes, you understand, it's basically where the development happens, testing happens, and then there are different types of sandboxes. We have developer sandbox, where usually the development happens, or developer pro sandbox. Usually companies start with developer pro. Then you have is a partial copy sandbox and a full sandbox. These are the different refresh intervals, the amount of data you can store them. And you can see here in full sandbox, you have all metadata and data, whereas in partial copy, you have metadata and sample of the datas, whereas in the developer pro, you only have metadata. Okay. In order to spin a partial copy, you need a template, and you can spin off of those. So these are the different types of sandboxes. There are different ways you can do the deployment. So once you have made the changes in a developer pro and you want to push it, the one of the very basic one we have is chain sets. Chain set is useful when you need to migrate the metadata between related organizations. So your organization needs to be related from developer pro to a partial copy or a QA environment. And you will create two different types of chain sets. One is the inbound chain sets and an outbound chain set. So in the source organization, you're going to create an outbound chain set and upload that chain set to the target instance. In the target instance, you go to inbound chain sets and go to the chain set that has been uploaded. And from there, you will validate the chain sets and deploy it. Okay. So for example, you have done with your customizations in developer sandbox. Once connection is established, you will go to the outbound chain set and create one outbound chain sets in development sandbox, and then list all the components, like whatever the test classes you want to add, any new fields you have created. So you will add those to the chain sets. Next, you will upload that chain set either to the test org, to the production org. Then you will go log into your target instance and go to the inbound chain sets and deploy that chain set. Okay, so these are the two different types of chain sets we have. And now we will go ahead and talk about flows. Any questions before I jump to the flows? This is pretty much the last topic. We will continue with this topic because flows is very important and everybody they use flows a lot. So today we're going to talk about flows, and the first type of flow we will talk about is the screen flow. We will do a couple of examples related to that, and then in the next tutorial, we will do other types of flows as well. So first of all, what is a flow? So initially, when Salesforce started out, they had workflows, they had process builder. Now everything has been moved over to flow. Flow is basically a visual automation tool, and it is an application inside Salesforce that collects the data, performs actions in your org, and they can even do a lot of complex things as well. So it's not just for basic examples. Flow is used for doing a lot of complicated things. And initially those things we were dependent on a Salesforce developer to do it, but now they can be easily done with in Salesforce admin can do it. And a lot of times now, if companies are following the best practices, they are moving everything to the flows, and they're trying to, because it's maintenance wise, it is much easier to maintain. But in my experience, guys, debugging a flow is much more challenging than debugging an Apex class. That's based on my experience, but everybody is different. Now what it can do, you can create records, you can update records, delete record, you can post to chatter, you can call external systems, you can call Apex classes, you can do all of that through the flows. Now, there are different types of flows that are available. There are basically two types mainly. One is a screen flow and the other one is a auto-launched flow. Screen flow is a flow when you're asking a user to input something, and then based on that input, you can go ahead and create a record, you can update something, send that information to a third-party system. You can do all of that within a screen flow. Means it has to have a screen. That's when it's called a screen flow. And then you have is auto launch flow. There are different types of those. One is record triggered flow. Record triggered flow is you launch automatically when a record is either created, updated, or deleted. If you want to do certain things based on a record changes, okay? If a record, it could be an account record, lead record, contact record, where if that particular account has been updated, you want to perform some actions, you want to trigger a platform event, you can do all that through a record triggered flow. Now, what is a schedule trigger flow? If you want a flow to run on a schedule, it could be like a weekly schedule. If you want to run it daily, if you want to do certain these kind of things, then it was called as a schedule trigger flow. For example, if you want to do some nightly updates, reminder emails that you want to send, data cleanups that you want to do, in those scenarios, you're going to use a schedule triggered flow. Okay. The next one is a screen flow. It displays a user input in user screen. So you will have a screen, and inside of screen, you will have different components to capture information, to collect the data from the user. And then based on that data, you can either behind the scene, you can create a record, you can send that data to an external system. All those things you can do within the flow. Auto launch flow is you can runs in the background. It can be triggered from an Apex class, process builder, or through another flow. That is what is called as an auto launched flow. Common use case is basically reusable sub flows. So rather than writing a huge flow, you break it down into smaller chunks and you break down the functionalities into sub flows, and you call those sub flows from the main flows. So that is an auto launched flow. Platform event triggered flow. So if an event happens, right? If an event happened, let's say an order came into a shoe order came into your system, that's an event, right? Or a payment was made, that was an event. So based on those events, if you want to do something, when a platform event message is received, that is called as a platform event triggered flow. So if you are connected with an external system and that external system has sent a platform event, and we will see an example of platform event also, and then you basically get the information from, let's say another system is there and they sent a platform event to you. Okay, they published a platform event, and now it came that platform event came to Salesforce. Now you read through that platform event and you create a record, okay, in your system. So that is when you're going to use a platform event trigger flow. Now, first important thing is, in order to
Hey,
start,
Deepika,
yeah, go ahead.
can you go back to the previous screen?
Sure. Okay. Oh, wait a minute.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think this is a damn important topic. I think more than 50% of your admin job revolves around these.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure like everybody follows this. So I think ScreenFlow is like just the basic. So I'm just going to reiterate just so that, just as a recap and like reconfirm. So ScreenFlow is primarily to automate anything that you see on the screen and capture or input anything and everything to do with the screen, with the UI, right? And the auto launched flow is more like if you guys have written anytime any type of program, say suppose you wanted to write a small function to address a particular piece of functionality or automation or a class or a method, right? So bits and pieces of your code that can run in the background can be done by the flow. Back in the days, this was done via Apex classes, Apex programming. But now you're able to do in a click and configure fashion, right? And then platform events. I think if you have any sort of database programming experience, we typically write triggers in the backend or any program, right? So instead of writing that triggers, now you can actually create a flow based on an event. Whenever an event occurs, trigger this particular piece of code or flow. So did I make sense?
Uh, yeah.
Or did I miss anything?
So screen flow is, I'm not sure if you mentioned screen flow basically is when, let's say, you are asking a user to fill a survey form, something like that. That is when you're going to use a screen flow, means you create a screen for the user. It's a user-driven process. Okay. Platform
So
event,
so
yeah.
I think a better way of saying this is like if you want to, so it's driven by the user
Yeah,
input.
by the user. So
That's the right
user
way to
is
put it.
going to have a form. They will fill up that form and then they will go to the next, and then you can behind the scene create a record into a table and you can do that. But it's user driven. Okay, user has to enter an input. Auto launched is a sub flow basically, like you breaking down the bigger flow into smaller, and you those auto launch flows you can call from another flows. And platform event is events happening from a system. They're publishing an event to us, and then based on that event you want to store that information from that event inside of your Salesforce. That is when you're going to use a platform event triggered flow.
So now on the screen flow, are we able to also insert data?
So okay, let me show you. So let's start with the flows parts. Okay, so there are different not actions, but there are different, you will have to add a new element called creating a record. So let me show you. So if I go here, we will log in. And we'll go to the setup. And we will go to flows. Okay, so these are certain flows that are automatically Salesforce out of the box. And if you want to create a new flow, you click on the new flow. And these are the different types of flows that you have. The categories are there. Frequently used is a record triggered, screen flow, schedule, and auto launched. An auto launch, if you see, it is either invoked by an Apex class or a particular process. It could be from, usually was from a process builder if you want to call a flow, or from another flow you want to call this through REST API. That is an auto launch flow. Schedule is if it launches at a specified time and frequency for each record in a batch. That is a schedule trigger where you are going to schedule that flow to run every day, every week. That is a schedule trigger. Screen flow, it guides users through a business process that's launched from Lightning pages or through a button, things like that. Record is when a record is created, updated, or deleted. So once I select a screen flow, there are two forms here, auto layout and a free form. This is a auto layout. Okay. And if I change it to free form, you will have like a left hand side bar here where you can drag and drop the elements from. And then here, any new variables you have created, or any variable is basically to store information. It could be to store a record ID or collection of records. You are going to create a resource here, and you can choose either to create a variable, either to create a constant, a formula, text template in case if you want to send an email, if you want to create a different choices, collection choice set, record choice set, pick. So these are the things you can do it through the resource. And then here elements you have. So this is a screen flow. So if you have chosen a different type of flow, the screen element won't be available. And then once you have, let's say, these are the anything to do with the data, you have to drag these elements, create records, update records, get records, delete records. So for example, I am doing a very simple one, where just a simple screen flow where I'll capture the lead information. I'll capture the name of the lead. I will capture the first name, last name, then I will capture the phone number, email, company, and then we will create a lead record behind the system. Okay. And then we will add this screen flow either on our home page. So that is our requirement, a very simple one. So here you will get understanding of what is a fault screen. You'll get an understanding of how a screen flow works. So the first thing is I'm going to drag a screen element onto the screen here, and I have to provide the name for this screen element, and I'll call it as lead capture details. Okay, so this is my screen properties, and the first thing is I want to capture the name of the lead. So there is a input field available called name, and automatically it has two parts, first name and last name. And I'm going to call this as lead name. This is the API name. API name should not have any spaces. It should be like this, or you can have like an underscore, I believe. And then disabled, if you wanted to disable this particular one, you're going to set it up to true, the global constant. So these are system variables that are available that you can use to define false or true constant values. So here you can say first name and last name. Okay, very simple. Then I want another field to capture the company. So here text, I'm going to go ahead and drag a text field. You can have a long text area if you wanted to capture a lot of details like description, things like that, then you're going to use long text area. If you want to display something to the user, okay, simply, hey, hi user, or hello, whatever it is, then you will use something called as display text. So right now I'm just going to drag a text field here, and this text field is to capture the company information. So this is the company, API name is this. If you want to make it a required field, you can do it require. If you wanted to make it a read only, you will set it up to true. But we don't have to do that. This is not a read-only field. We want the user to enter it. If you want to disable it, you will do that. If there is a default value, MyTutorialRack, that will show here. If you have a default value, so it will show up as the company name. If you wanted to have any conditional rendering, right? Like, okay, show this particular field based on a condition, you can set up a condition as well. You can set up these conditional rendering, but if you want it to be available, this field all the time, then you will go ahead and set it up to always. Validate input, let's say you want in the first name or last name, you wanted to make sure it doesn't have any that actually you can do it through something called as pattern, but you can do it also through the error formula. Like if you want to make sure, validate the input the user has entered. Let's say you have adding a date of birth field or something like that, and you wanted to say that date of birth should not be less than today's date, then you can put a formula to throw an error, like validating the input. We will do an example of this also. Excuse me, guys. Provide help. If you wanted to add like a help text, something like please enter a company name. So what will happen is this eye icon will show and this message will reflect when you hover your mouse over here. Similarly, if you want to capture email, all you need to do is drag it and put it here. This will be your lead email. And placeholder text, read only, required, whatever you want. So these are the 4 fields I want the user to fill up. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and click done here. And then the first important thing is you have to connect these two. So that is becoming your screen. Now, once you do that, your screen is there. So you got a lead record. We will go ahead and hit the save, and we'll call it as lead capture flow. And gonna go ahead and hit save here. And then you can debug it. Debug is if you want to test your flow before you publish it or before you activate it. We'll click on the debug, and what will happen is you can run the latest version of each flow called by subflow elements. If you have another subflow and you want to call this, you can select this option. And then run automation as another user. If you wanted to check how this flow will run as a different user, you can check this checkbox. Then you can select the user. For certain, I'm not sure why the option is enabled if you let admins debug flow as other users in process automation. Okay, so for this one, you need to enable a setting where you can make them run as a different person. And they will select this, and then they will have a user to choose from. So we're going to go ahead and hit the run here, and this is how the screen flow looks like. So first name is, I'm going to put Jason. Last name is Smith. Company is already by defaulted to MyTutorialRack. If I want, I can put it as Jason Smith Industries. And then here, I'm going to put the email address will be jason@yahoo.com. And this is now what's happening is nothing is going to happen. So finish your flow pretty much finished. You're just capturing the details of that lead, but you're not saving that information. You are not doing anything with that. All you're doing is you're basically just asking the user for the input, and that's it. Now, if I want, this is a simple screen flow, right? It is not creating anything behind the scene. It is just capturing the details of that user. Now we have this something called as create records. So anything to do with the data, there is a separate category available called under the data. You can create the records, you can update records, you can fetch the existing records, or you can delete the records. So create record, I'm going to go ahead and drop it here. And here I'm going to say create lead record. Now, how do you want to set record field values? Do you want to set the values of this from another record? We don't have another record. So I'm going to go ahead and choose manually here and then create a record of this object. Means which object are you interested to create the record? I'm interested to create a record of the type lead. So I have selected lead here. And then these are the two required fields that are available, company and the last name. So here I'm going to go ahead and say equals here. Company name is coming from, this is the screen component, right? This is the one that you just created, lead capture details. So in the previous screen itself, there is a place where you were asking for company. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Last name is available under this lead name. There is a field called last name. And then add another field. Let's say we also captured first name. So we'll go ahead and first name is coming from the screen itself, and where you have put lead name, there is a first name available. Also add field, you have email. So we're going to go ahead and capture email here. Email is available in this email. And then from email, we are using dot value. Okay, so email dot value, whatever the user has entered in that field, that is what we will put here. Okay, so simple. We're creating a lead record. We are setting up the field values manually. Company name is coming from the whatever user has entered in the screen under the company input field. That is what the company would be. Last name is coming from the last name when the user has entered it. First name is coming from the first name that user has entered in the previous screen. Email is coming from the email field. Okay. And then here, if you wanted to store the ID of this newly created record, you can create a variable and store the ID of the newly created record also. We don't have to do it right now. We will leave it as it is. I'm going to go ahead and delete it and hit done. Now this one, I'm going to connect these two elements. So now this is saving. I'm going to save this. And now this is a simple screen flow I have created. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and activate it. So we're going to go ahead and activate the screen flow. And now we need to deploy the screen flow somewhere, right? We can launch it through a button. We can add it over to our home page. We can do anything like that. So let's say we go over to our home page here, and we don't have a home page. So we will go to the app manager and let's add a home page. So we'll go here, app manager, and we will go to the CloudKicks application, click on edit. And here we will go to the navigation items and we will add a home page. Okay, and let me add it on the top. And another thing is there's another homepage. I don't know why they have created this confusion, but let's add it, save here, and then we will go to the Lightning App Builder and we will go to the CloudKicks. Okay, so we have to launch this flow somewhere, right? So we can launch it through a button, we can launch it through anything. So here I'm going to go to this home page and click on edit page. And what I'll do is I will go to the delete this component, we don't need it. And here we will go to the flow and we will drag it and paste it here, and which flow it is, right? So you have, remember, if it was a something to do with lead capture flow. This was the name of the flow, lead capture flow here, and that will show, hit save. And now what will happen is if you go over to your home page, if you go to leads, how many leads records you have? We have total of about 19 leads record, and we click on home and then we enter the first name. Let's say we do Rajat Singh, company is MyTutorialRack, email is rajat@yahoo.com, and then we will go ahead and click on next here. And so there is no screen, like a thank you screen or nothing. But you can see here a new lead has been created. And if you go to the lead records, you now have 20 records created. The recent one has been added as well. If I go to the Rajat Singh, this is the newly created lead, and all the fields have been populated. You have the name populated, you have my tutorial rack populated, you have the email populated. But if you go back to the home page, after this screen, I wanted to, first of all, have another thank you screen telling me that a lead has been successfully created. So what I will do is I will go back to the flows again, and we will go to the lead capture flow here. Anytime you have activated the flow, you cannot make that changes to the same flow. So you will have to save it as a new version. So we'll click on save as a new version, and then you can make a change to the flow. Okay, so once a record has been created, I want to display another screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and display another screen here, and I will call this as success screen. Okay, and here I will display a text here. Okay, display text, and from here I'm going to go ahead and drag it, and here I'm going to say success message, and here I will say great job. And then you can also use a existing user information. Okay, great job, and then we can get the first name of the user. Great job this on creating a new record. So there are certain resources available. This is a variable available called user, and inside of that there we have a, no, this is a user object, and inside of that user there is a property called first name, and you are basically getting the first name of the logged in user. Okay, and then we will say congratulations. Now if you want to do any kind of formatting, you can do it. We can increase the font size, you can make it a little bit big, change the color, put the text in the center. You can do all of that by putting it here, and then we can do it done. So this is another screen, which is the screen that you have. Now let's say, because you're creating a record, right? There can be an issue while creating the record. So for example, if I go ahead and hit save, and I'll show you what that example is. So let's go ahead and first finish it off. We will go to the home screen, refresh this, and here you will see first name, I'm going to put it at Mamta, last name Chabra, company is M&M, email is mamta@yahoo.com. Now what will happen is when you have next, you're going to go ahead and see, okay, what happened here? Did we not activate? Oh, we didn't activate it. So you have to activate the latest one. So otherwise it was going through the old activated one. Okay, so we go back, we go to the home page, refresh this, and we will go here. We will call Rima. Company name, MyTutorialRack, Rima@yahoo.com. Hit next here, and you can say that message came. Great job, Deepika. And it automatically pulled up my name because I've said user.first name on creating a new record, and it says congratulations. Now, if you don't want to show these buttons, right, finish and previous or lead capture flow, you can customize that by going over to the screen And here, if you go configure the header, so if you don't want to show this header, you go ahead and uncheck this, so the header will be removed. If you come here, you don't want to see the footer, then you can uncheck this, so you can go ahead and remove the footer, and only this message will be shown to the user. So we're going to go ahead and save as, save, and you can configure your header and footer also, and we'll go ahead and activate it. We'll go back to the home page, refresh it, and we will fill up another details again here. So this time I'm saying Crystal, work, company is K and K, and then here I'm Crystal at yahoo.com. And then what will happen is those other buttons will no longer show, it will only show you this message here, okay? Similarly, let's say you went ahead and didn't provide the last name, and last name is a required field, and you just provided the, in order to create a lead record, last name is a mandatory field, and you just gave here, John, you didn't provide the last name, and you said John at yahoo.com here. And then what will happen is this will give you a message. This is not a good error message, right? An unhandled fault has occurred in the flow, an unhandled fault has occurred while using the flow, and it doesn't tell you what the error message was, right? So when this kind of situation happen, and usually when you are doing anything with the data, you need to, like you're inserting data or you're updating data, or you're doing any of those operations related to data, you always need to add a fault path. Okay, what happens is fault path basically tells you if a fault happened in your flow while creating the record, rather than showing this vague message to the user, you basically show a better screen output so that the end user understands what went wrong. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the flow, and here we'll save it as a new version. And then here again, we will go to the, wait a minute. Oops. Open the latest version. Actually, open the flow here. And save as a new version, save. And then here, what you can do is you're going to go to the, wait a minute. So this is your screen flow. This is your create. Now we'll add another screen element here, and we will call this as fault screen. And here we will display a text, simple one. We'll display the text and we'll say error message. And we'll say here, an error occurred while creating a lead record. And then here here are the error details. Okay. Now, those ones here, you have something called as flow. This is a variable available, global variable. And inside of that flow, you have a message called fault message. And that fault message you can display. So that will exactly tell you what went wrong with creating that lead record. And you can go ahead and change this in the center. You can increase the size of it. If you want to change the color, you can go ahead and change it to red. Hit done, and then we'll go ahead and done. So now we will connect these two screens, and automatically this becomes your fault path. So fault path means if a fault happened inside of this element while creating the record, then this is the screen I want my user to see. So we're going to go ahead and save it, and we will activate it. And then here we will go to the lead capture, sorry, not this one. We'll go to our home page. And then here, this time, if you don't enter anything, let's say you don't enter anything for last name, I'm going to say Kim, and company is same, Kim at gmail.com. Now, last name is not there. Moment I say next, you see a better response here. This error occurred when the flow tried to create records. This field is missing, last name. So whatever was in the fault message, that displayed, and it displayed it in the red color. Okay, so this is a simple example of creating a screen flow. Everybody clear on this one? Any questions? Can I get a thumbs up from everybody before I go to the next one? Okay. Next one, we will go to the next one here. And then let's say now so far what we have done is we created a simple lead record. Now, before I go to, with one more thing I can do here is I can also upload a file for a lead record. Let's say I want them to upload their business card. So what I can do is there is a component available. So we'll go back to the flow again, save it as a new version, save it. And then here, after the record has been created, let's say I wanted to, we'll go to the flow again. This is an active, save as new version, save. And then here, let's say I wanted to also allow them to upload files. Very simple. What we're going to do here is, okay. So here I'm going to go to this is another screen. You can get rid of this. I'm trying to select this. Okay, get rid of this. And then we will add another screen here after this. And we will call this as upload business card. Okay. And here I'm going to go ahead and upload a file upload input. So if you want a user to upload a file, okay, upload file. And then here you can say, upload your business card. And what is your accepted formats? You can select .jpeg / comma .png. These are selected formats. If you want to allow multiple files, you will set this up to true. Content document IDs, content version, these are related to documents. We don't have to worry about that. And then related record ID, right? Who do you want this file to be tied to? Which record? So what you can do is, the lead that was created from the previous element, which is this one, we will go ahead and use that lead record dot of ID. Let's see if this works. This may or may not work. So let's go ahead and put this lead record dot ID, hit done here, and then we will connect these two. So we'll select this, and then we'll connect this screen, and then here we will select the screen, hit save, and let's see if this works. Activate it, and we will go to the home screen again, refresh this, and here you will enter first name Amar Singh, company is Amar Tutorials, amar@yahoo.com. And then what will happen is I'll go to the next, and now there is a file component available. We'll go ahead and upload a file here. Let's say I have this particular file. I'm going to go ahead and do a done here and click on next. And this is great job, Deepika. This has been created. So now if I go to the leads and Amar Singh has been created, let's see if the files shows up. Okay, so file related list doesn't exist. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to edit object. Does anybody wants to know why this is not showing up?
It's not on the page layout.
Yes, it's not on the page layout. So first thing is we'll go to the page layouts. We'll go to the lead layout here. And then here, the related list, we will go ahead and drag this files related list somewhere here. And then we will save it. We'll say yes. And now what will happen is if I go to Amar Singh, let's see if this works. And you can see here that file is now reflected under that particular lead record. Okay. So far, very simple screen flows we have done. Any questions on this one? Okay. Everybody good?
Can we compile a list of maybe later for the next session? Maybe can we compile a list of examples like for screen flow from a user input perspective, from a button perspective? What could be like real-time use cases, right?
So
that,
you can
that kind of
so you like when you say you can invoke the screen flow from a button. Let's say you want to put this the same exact screen flow onto that depends on, you can put it under the account. If you want to create a lead record from the account, you can do that by adding a action here. And the way to do is, if that's another point I'll teach you, is if you go to the accounts, you will go to the edit object. It depends on the requirements where they want that particular thing to be available. So if you want to show this screen flow here, you can go to the button links and action, and we'll create a new action here. And here you'll say a flow, and then this is your lead capture flow. We can call it as create new lead, and then hit save. So now what will happen is, on your account page, I need to add this action. So I'll go to the account layout, and I will go to the mobile and lightning actions, create new leads. I will add it over to here, hit save. So we added the screen flow on the home page. Now we are adding a button here. So if I go to any of these, now there is a create new lead action available, and that pretty much does the same exact thing. So why is not working? Okay, it works. So first name, last name, same one that we created, and it will go ahead and create a new lead also. Now, as an assignment, guys, I do have a small assignment for you, which you will do. Basically, I want my screen flow basically goes to that newly created lead. Okay, so automatically I should be moved. Once that lead is created, I want the newly created lead page to pop up. Okay, can you guys do that as an assignment? You can use Google, anything you want, but this is a simple assignment I want is, once that lead has been created, I want you to basically show that it should get navigated to that lead record. Okay. Now here we will go ahead and create a contact, and we will tie that contact to that account. Okay, so through here we will talk about the lookup. So we do have something called as, we'll go back to the flows, and we'll go to the flow here. And we will click on new flow. And this is again, getting rid of all these. We will click on screen flow. And then here we will click on the screen, and we will ask for the all the information we need for the contact. Okay, so here we can say contact input screen. And here we will, first thing is we are going to go ahead and ask the user for the name. So we're going to go ahead and get that. Full name is here. And then next one would be, what else? Company. Sorry, we'll go ahead and get the text. And then we will call it as company. And then here we need to tie that contact to the account. So here we will go ahead and say lookup, and we will go ahead and put this over here, and look up to which. So on the contact, there is a field available called account ID. Okay, if you go over to any contact object, and if you go here, and if you go to the edit object, in order for you to tie this, we do have a field available called account ID on the contact object. This one, right? So it is a lookup to the account. So what will happen is, if you go here and you say account ID, the field API name is also account ID. Label, we will say tie the account. Object API name is contact. So basically, on the contact object, whatever the account ID field is, that's a lookup field. So it will basically, whichever account you populate here, this contact will get tied to that account. I'll show you in a minute how it'll look like. Done. And this is your input screen here. We're going to go ahead and save it. We can say create contact record and then hit save. And then here we will go ahead and debug this, run it. We will enter the first name. Let's say the first name is Yemen Singh. Tie the account. So now here we can say you will see all the accounts that are there. Okay, so we can say Burlington Textile and company is I think I shouldn't have added company because account will basically the company, but we'll do and finish it. And now what will happen is that you saw the list. So what will happen is if you have created this, it would have tied that contact to the account. So now we will add a create record, simple one, create record here, and we'll call this as create contact record. From a record variable, no, it is manual. Which object are we creating here? We are creating a contact object. And then which fields? Last name is a required field. So where is the last name coming from? From the contact input screen, we are asking for if name, and then from the name, we are capturing the last name. Okay, so whatever user has entered in that screen under the last name, that is will be stored under this last name field. Similarly, the first name is going to come from the same input screen. Under the full name, we have something called as first name. Then we'll go ahead and put the account ID. So the account ID is nothing but from the input screen, we have this tie the account, and then that is your record ID. Okay, so tie whatever we have under the record ID, that will be populated. And then hit the save, and we will go ahead and we will activate it. Okay, so we will go to the contact. Actually, we'll go to the account. And here we will go to the button link and action, and we'll call this as new button or link. And why is it taking a while? Okay. Actually, I wanted it not an action here. So let's go new action. We will go to create a flow. Which one? Create contact record. We'll call it as create contact. Hit save. And then what will happen is we go over to the page layout and we will drag that button over, that action over here. So we'll go to the mobile action, new, what was that? Create contact, right? This was the one? I believe so. So we go to there, click save. We go to this one, refresh it. And now here you will see a new create contact. And here we will say first name is Jason. Tie the account. So we're going to go ahead and tie this to Athleta, the same one. So we're going to go ahead and click on next here. And what will happen is this Jason got tied to this account. Okay, so the lookup is very important, is which lookup field do you want to tie it to? So we selected, if you go here, what we did was we selected in the input screen, we dropped a lookup element, and the account ID is basically this is the one that you have to remember, the field API name. So this is the API name on the account object. On the contact object, we have a field called account ID. And which object we are talking about? On the contact object. So automatically, whatever the values are there in the account lookup, those are showing up over here. Okay. Another important thing is, let's say if I go over to the account, so the contact, let's say if there is a pick list field here, lead source, right? So if you want this particular pick list to be shown on the on the flow. So how we can do that? We will go to the input screen, and there is a choice, no, pick list, I would say. And we will go ahead and drop this pick list and we'll put it here, get rid of this company. We don't need this. And here you can say lead source. Now, there are different ways. Here you can select the choices. Now you can create a new choice resource, okay? And then here you can select from a record choice set. Record choice set means if you want to show records of a particular type, let's say account type over here, you can show those lists. We'll take a look at that also. But here I'm going to say a pick list choice set. So generate a set of choices by using the values of a pick list or multi-select pick list field. Here you're generating a set of choices using a filtered set of records. And collection is from the collection of records. If you want to create a drop down, you can do that. Here, I'm going to go ahead and select pick list choice set. I'm going to call this as lead source pick list. And from which object? It is available on the contact. So I'm going to go ahead and select contact here. And data type is a pick list. And the field that is there called lead source. So whatever is the pick list options that are available in this, those are the same pick list options you are going to see under this lead source. So I'm going to go ahead and enter done here. And now we will go ahead and save here. And we will activate it. So you saw how to use a pick list as well. So if I go here, we will go to the active. We'll go here, we'll click on refresh. And we will go to the create contact here. And now you will have all those values that you wanted are reflected. And these pick list is coming from the lead source pick list that is available on the contact object. Now, it could also refer to a different object. Let's say from the account also, if you wanted to show some pick list values, you can show that as well. And then you can go ahead and here what we're showing is within the contact object, we had a field called lead source and we're showing the pick list values from that lead source. Any questions on this one, guys? Any questions so far on what we have covered today? Is everybody crystal clear? Guys, can I get a tick mark from everybody before we proceed to the next? Thank you, Shalini, for sharing that. Okay. I only got a thumbs up from Girija. What's going on with everybody else? Am I going too fast? Shalini, you want to add something here? You were saying you can talk.
Yeah, earlier I mentioned non-preview sandbox too. You can deploy from non-preview sandbox to preview after deployment is done, but it's wrong. Just a correction, my apologies. You can deploy from non-preview to production. You cannot deploy from preview to production or preview to non-preview because of the version conflict. So that's the reason you always have to have the recommended option is to have at least one non-preview sandbox during release cycle, that 6 weeks of window that Salesforce has. If there is, and do not plan any major deployment during that window. If suppose there's a chance that any hard fix or something important to deploy, then non-preview to production is the option. Just wanted to add that. But
did everybody understood what Shalini is trying to say?
Sorry?
No, I just want to make sure everybody understood what Shalini is saying.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, earlier we talked about the sandbox. I put the link in the chat.
Let me open it.
Details of preview versus non-preview versions.
Okay. A preview sandbox provides early access to new features and lets you test your configuration before the production upgrade. Preview sandboxes are upgraded automatically 6 weeks in advance of production orgs during every major release. Okay. So if you want, so any new features that Salesforce is going to release, those will be published to this preview sandbox. Non-preview are not upgraded early. You will use non-preview when building new changes for your production org, to which your existing sandbox are preview or non-preview from setup, quick find, select, and then, okay. So here, where does it say that you cannot push from preview to non-preview? Non-preview to preview.
The link. There's a lot of details to it. Basically, you had to go through because of the version conflict, you can't do that. That's the reason you always have to have at least one non-preview sandbox.
So
Okay.
guys, to recap, if I want, I'm just trying to recap, right? So what we said is, you cannot deploy from a preview sandbox to production. You can only do it from a non-preview to production,
Mhm.
right? And you need to at least, therefore, you need to have at least one non-preview before your release, and you don't want any major changes to be deployed. Is that what you said?
Because of the version, compatibility issue, you cannot deploy anything from preview. Preview has already received the next version from the Salesforce, right? So you cannot deploy from
Preview
preview
to
to
production.
production.
Okay. Makes
And
sense.
during that window, that 6 weeks window, if you want to deploy anything or make changes, it's good to have one non-preview sandbox at least to make that change and push it to production. Make
Okay,
sense?
so that kind of ensures that production does not receive that new release, what Salesforce has just
No, it's
released.
completely blocked by Salesforce because of the version compatibility issue.
Right. But now,
So, and
but
if
now
you
the
build a new sandbox, they publish the date, release date, sandbox release date, and when is the due date to make it like, the last copy of that you can get as a new sandbox to in a non-preview mode. So they publish on their website. And if you spin off a new sandbox after that date, you always get a preview sandbox. There is no way you can get a non-preview version. So there is a deadline for that.
Shalini, do you have like a production org that you can show or no?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sorry, just a follow-up question. I think this is for Shalini. So my understanding is then, based on what you said, that if you want to just lock down your environment, whether it's a production or non-production, doesn't matter. Basically, you have to have it as non-preview, correct? You have to have it as non-preview. But if you have it as preview, then it'll basically just, Salesforce will just keep pushing any kind of changes at their will. Is that correct?
Not
Yeah,
at their will, just those releases.
Yeah, during the release cycle, they have three major release cycles, right? They announce the date in and ahead of time.
Yeah, actually, that's also a good question because I actually I'm always curious that do they really push only during those release cycles? Because I do see like in sandboxes. Now, this is, I think you can only notice if you have any other program, like let's say some kind of automated test that's running on your environment. It is a frequent challenge with Salesforce UI. It seems like the UI just gets updated, even though it's not obvious looking at the UI. But I would say, kind of like the backend side of the UI, meaning like, let's say if the UI has some kind of, ID or, name or any other kind of attributes that your automated test may depend on, uh, that actually change quite frequently. And it is a huge puzzle actually for me at least. Like, what is their release strategy and what is their, because I've seen that this is way more frequent than their release cycle, which I believe is kind of quarterly. So it's way more frequent than that. If anybody knows anything about that, I would be very, you know, it would be very helpful for me to know, like, what is there a way to lock down your environment for
No,
sure?
no, I don't think so.
You cannot, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is that even a true statement, Deepika? I don't think Salesforce automatically pushes anything. I think the only way it pushes is through these release cycles, which are predetermined.
They do it only through the release cycle. They will, I don't think in between they push anything.
Yeah, so I don't,
It
And
seems
they schedule
it's
it by this thing too. Every box will be different. They have the servers, right? So they are not pushing everything to everyone's box at the same time. Like the one that is coming up now, the boxes for my company will not be pushed until November 1st, right? So even though we're in the cycle already for another set of releases, right? So just my contribution. It's not like they automatically do that across the board with all the
I
servers,
think they probably
obviously.
do it in the phases.
In faces, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's the word to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, in that case, you receive the notification from them
Yeah.
and the instances they push. And I have, somebody asked here, I have noticed in the past, they do release something, it's not impacting, in general, your org at all. Like not feature change or something like that, but it might be related to, especially in the
Like a
area where
setup
health
change or
check.
something, Shalini?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
health check portion or something or security related, but it won't impact your org at all. You may not notice unless you really see the difference, the before and after.
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe they have something like that because as I said,
I
like,
have seen
there is
that.
no UI change, there is no obvious UI change or functionality change from a user perspective. But as I said, like, only if we have some other program that you have running on your Salesforce UI, which is dependent on the UI metadata, kind of like, whether it's UI, any kind of UI attribute like name or ID, or, Salesforce ID is pretty not dependable at all. So let's say not ID, but any other thing, like any other attribute, whether it's name or ARIA labels, things like that. Uh, they're highly unreliable. It is a huge puzzle for me, like, why they change from even, in 1 week to another week.
Oh,
It's
I can
yeah.
answer that. So that has nothing to do with Salesforce release. This is purely like a testing challenge, right? And that's because they are all random IDs. They're variable IDs.
Actually, no. So as I said, I think you didn't follow. We're not actually even depending on ID, as I said, because those are random. But some other attributes which are static, even those change. And I think this is we can wind down maybe unrelated topic because their UI is extremely non-standard. So I think maybe my take on this is that I think maybe they slowly maybe trying to be like compliant with various UI standards or things like that, accessibility compliance and things like that. So maybe they're improving and it is probably why um, the UI changes on the backend side of the UI. But because it is not really changing features, so they don't really make that as they don't consider that as a release change, and they just push that as their will. That's my take on this. Yeah.
Okay, guys. I think we are, if you want, we can discuss it next week, the same thing, but I would still want to continue with the flows and try to wrap up by next week in this course. I definitely need a small favor from you. If you go to Google and look for My Tutorial Rack, there is a review section. Please, if you can post a review about the training, that'll really, really help me. I really appreciate that. And because we are already at the end of the admin one, so hopefully next weekend will be the last weekend for the admin, and we will wrap it up, and then we'll from the next on weekend we'll start the development, whoever is interested. Okay, guys, I will be sharing the videos of this session tomorrow morning, so keep an eye out for that, and thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.